So this reading is going to be a little different to what I would normally read, but this is a scenario to when you as the reader invites all 4 of the turtles over to your place to have a sleepover and a movie night. But the twist is that, in this case, I'll be reading out the different scenarios to how you confess to each of the turtles and their individual reactions. So I'll be reading out through each turtle and their reactions to your confessions. We will start with Raphael. When the guys first arrived at your apartment, Raph treated it as though it was the first time. He'd ask you about the decorations in your house, who the people were in your photographs, and so on. He only did it so he could learn more about you and to see that beaming smile on your face. He, like his brothers, obviously fought over what movie to watch. He'd then shush everyone when you chosen the movie because the boys couldn't pick one for themselves. He'll push whoever is sat near him on the ground just so he can have your warm body against his. Doesn't care about the looks his brothers give him. Around the halfway point of the second movie, you keep jittering and shuffling around all nervous. He takes note and whispers if you're okay. You'd mockingly nod your head and receive a worried glance in return. After another movie, you'd pull Raph aside and finally allow him to see how stressed out and crazy you look. He'd calm you down, asking you to speak with words and not sounds. Once you open your mouth and quickly confess to Raph, he breaks. He then lifts you up without saying anything and doesn't let you go for the rest of the night. Next, Leonardo. Mr. Cool Boy thinks he's safe from the whole Flusher thing. He's the tried it once, wasn't me kind of guy. But the moment you're stood in the kitchen with him and just started confessing, he can feel his palms sweat, mouth drool, knees shake, the works. He's cursing how his cheeks could illuminate the sea like the lighthouse as you babble on about your feelings for him. Once you're finished, you check back to Leo, only to see the guys completely motionless. At one point you poked a finger against his chest and watched him crumble to the ground. You lightly winced as his shell hit the ground. Leaning over him, you saw his eyes flutter open then remain in a half-cast glance, a dopey smile on his lips. He opened his mouth to speak, but only lovesick sounds came out. He'd make it up to you the next day. Donatello. Donnie never thought you could like him in any other way than friends. So when you took him to your room during the movie, much to his disappointment because he was really looking forward to watching it, he was speechless. He listened carefully as you began reciting what seemed to be a monologue in your head, confessing all of your innermost feelings to him. To him, about him. He couldn't believe it. He didn't believe it. How could someone as amazing as you fall for a skinny nerd like him, a reptile at that? It just didn't make sense. But he allowed, for once, his brain to silence for his heart to control things. He quickly leaped onto you, sending you both tumbling onto your bed as his arms gripped your back in a tight embrace, his beak pressing against your curves of your neck, a deep chirr renouncing from his chest. He never wanted to leave this moment. It was his new favourite memory, he had decided. Michelangelo. Mikey was just happy to spend one-on-one time with you. It's not that he hated his brothers, but time with you was different. Time with you was unexpected, and Mikey liked the unexpected. He had followed you into the bathroom, per Donnie's request for some bandages after Raph had cut himself while recreating a move on TV. Mikey questioned your decision to shut the door, knowing that there wasn't a carpet between the aging wood. But the moment you turned to face him with desperation and fear in your eyes, Mikey sprung forward and embraced you. He began rubbing his hands up and down your back in a soothing motion, whispering kind words to you as you cried. He wasn't sure why you were crying at first, but then he heard it, the weak, "I love you." And suddenly he found himself squeezing you harder. He found himself repeating your words, the same amount of love, if not more, going into them. You stayed like that for a while, only scrambling for the medic when Donnie screamed at you from the living room.